Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the Philadelphia experiment. Did the US Navy make a ship invisible in 1943? Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 1943, according to a letter received by astronomer Morris Jessup in 1955, the US Navy destroyer escort USS Eldridge was rendered completely invisible to radar and to the naked eye, teleported from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia, and back again, all in minutes. Sailors allegedly went mad, disappeared into thin air, or were found embedded in the ship's steel hull upon its return. The Navy denies any such experiment ever occurred. The claim originated with a man called Carl M. Allen, a merchant seaman who insisted he had watched the experiment from another vessel in Philadelphia harbor. He wrote a series of annotated letters to Jessup, citing Einstein's unified field theory as the mechanism, describing in vivid detail the horror of sailors who were never the same afterward. Jessup, a credentialed astronomer, was disturbed enough to pursue the lead. He died in 1959, officially a suicide. The story has never been confirmed, but it has also never been conclusively buried. If the Navy did develop a technology that powerful in 1943, what happened to it, and why is it still classified? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the landscape of modern documented mysteries, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Governments keep secrets. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is documented fact, confirmed by declassified archives, freedom of information disclosures, and the confessions of officials long after the events in question. The United States government ran secret programs to test psychedelic drugs on unwitting civilians culture, to spy on its own citizens, COINTELPRO, and to cover up nuclear testing incidents that killed American soldiers. The British government suppressed information about UFO encounters by military personnel for decades. The Soviet Union systematically falsified scientific data to maintain ideological conformity. None of this means that every government secret involves supernatural phenomena or alien contact. The reality of classified programs is almost always more mundane. Military technology being tested covertly, intelligence operations that cannot be publicly acknowledged, or simply the bureaucratic instinct to classify first and justify later. Most UFO sightings that turn out to have official explanations were classified aircraft. Most government denials of anomalous phenomena are straightforwardly honest. The phenomena being denied are simply not real. But the documented history of government secrecy has a practical effect on investigative credibility. When officials deny knowledge of events that witnesses describe in compelling detail, that denial cannot be taken at face value without independent corroboration. The proven track record of institutional concealment means that institutional denial, however authoritative it sounds, is not the same as evidence of absence. This complicates every modern mystery that touches on official narrative. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter, The core evidence surrounding the Philadelphia experiment, did the US Navy make a ship invisible in 1943, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The USS Eldridge was a real Cannon-class destroyer escort commissioned on August 27, 1943. She served throughout World War II, was transferred to the Greek Navy in 1951 as the HMS Leon, and was decommissioned in 1992. Her crew and Greek naval officers consistently and uniformly denied that any unusual experiment had ever been conducted aboard her, or that anything anomalous had occurred during her service. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes, but as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered Carl M. Allen, also known as Carlos Allende, began writing annotated letters to Morris Jessup, author of the case for the UFO, in 1955 and 1956. Allen claimed to have witnessed the Philadelphia experiment from aboard the SS Andrew Furuseth nearby. He cited Einstein's 1925-1927 attempts at a unified field theory as the theoretical basis for the alleged invisibility technology. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine Morris Jessup, an astronomer and author of several books on unidentified aerial phenomena, was found dead in his car in Dade County Park, Florida, on April 20, 1959. His death was ruled a suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning. Conspiracy researchers have long suggested his death was connected to his pursuit of Allen's claims, though no evidence of foul play was established at the time. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the Varro Corporation, a small defense contractor in Garland, Texas, reportedly produced a mimeographed annotated edition of Jessup's book incorporating Allen's handwritten marginal notes in 1958, apparently at the request of naval officers. The existence of this document and the Navy's apparent interest in it is one of the few documentable facts supporting a kernel of official engagement with the story. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the experiment date most commonly cited is October 28, 1943. USS Eldridge's official deck logs for that period show the ship was at the Philadelphia Navy Yard on August 12, 1943, the date of an alternative version of the experiment, but was in New York waters by late October, not Philadelphia. The logs are considered authentic by naval historians. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: degaussing, the process of neutralizing a ship's magnetic field to protect against magnetically triggered mines, was real. Classified technology actively deployed by the US Navy. In World War II, it involves running high-current electromagnetic coils through a ship's hull. Some researchers argue that Allen misunderstood or misrepresented a degaussing demonstration as something far more exotic. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Philadelphia experiment. Did the US Navy make a ship invisible in 1943? This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that Carl Allen's account is genuine, and the Navy conducted a secret experiment in 1943 using a prototype unified field device capable of bending electromagnetic radiation around the hull, rendering the ship invisible, and through some unintended quantum effect, teleporting it. No credible physical mechanism exists for this within known physics, and no independent corroborating witness has ever emerged from the naval community. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that Allen witnessed or learned of a degaussing experiment, and through misunderstanding, imagination, or deliberate embellishment, transformed a real but mundane naval demagnetization procedure into an invisibility story. Degaussing does make a ship invisible to magnetic mines, but produces no optical or radar invisibility whatsoever, and does not approach anything that could cause teleportation or human injury. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the entire account is a fabrication by Allen, who demonstrated a pattern of elaborate written hoaxes throughout his life, and who was by multiple accounts an unstable and obsessive personality. The story grew through repetition, the 1984 film, and internet amplification into a self-sustaining myth that no single refutation has been able to fully dismantle. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree, that is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Philadelphia experiment. Did the US Navy make a ship invisible in 1943? Does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence, as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the USS Eldridge's deck logs for August and October 1943, reviewed by naval historians and available through the National Archives, place the ship in locations inconsistent with the claimed experiment dates and location. The logs show no gap, no classified redaction, and no entry suggesting unusual activity. Veterans organizations representing Eldridge crew members produced signed affidavits denying any such event. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented Einstein's unified field theory work from the 1920s was incomplete and was never developed into any working technology. Einstein himself abandoned the project. The theoretical framework Allen cited as the basis for the experiment did not then, and does not now, provide any mechanism for electromagnetic invisibility or teleportation of macroscopic objects. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed Allen's letters to Jessup contain internal inconsistencies, evolving details across multiple communications, and claims that cannot be cross-referenced with any independent source. His handwriting and annotations in the Varro edition shift between multiple apparent personas. Researchers who investigated Allen personally described him as prone to fantasy and incapable of distinguishing his inventions from reported fact. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Philadelphia experiment. Did the US Navy make a ship invisible in 1943? Now, we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Navy has officially and consistently denied any Philadelphia experiment. The USS Eldridge's Greek crew, who operated the vessel for decades after the alleged events, reported nothing unusual in the ship's history or structure. Allen died in 1994, still maintaining his account. The 1984 film The Philadelphia Experiment cemented the story in popular culture and introduced it to a generation unfamiliar with its origins, dramatically expanding the mythology. The story has no confirmed physical basis, no surviving credible witnesses beyond Allen himself, and no documentary support from naval archives. It endures because it contains elements: wartime secrecy, Einstein, teleportation, government denial, that are independently compelling, and because Morris Jessup's unexplained death adds a layer of genuine unease that no amount of official denial can fully dissolve. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Philadelphia experiment. Did the U.S. Navy make a ship invisible in 1943? From the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved, what the story of Philadelphia experiment ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.